So when I learned that I had to introduce Councillor Yancey, I was really, really, really excited. I said, yes, I want to marry Councillor Yancey. So I did a little research, and then I found out that Councillor Yancey is already married. I know I'm too late, but I will tell you, because I cannot have Councillor Yancey, I've set my sights on Michael Caine. Anyway, some of the other things I found out in my research about Councillor Yancey is that Councillor Yancey has pushed for diversity, both racial and gender, at City Hall. This is one of the things that he has been pushing for, diversity at City Hall. I also found out that at Tufts University, Councillor Yancey founded the Afro-American Society. He founded the African American Cultural Center, and he founded the Tufts Summer Institute. But I also found out that Councillor Yancey was a leading voice in divestment in apartheid South Africa. Okay? And Councillor Yancey authored a bill in 1984 that caused the Boston companies who were investing in companies that did business in South Africa. Because of his bill, these Boston companies withdrew $12.5 million in assets from companies that were investing in South Africa. So with Councillor Yancey, we have a voice for the inner city and for people who do not have a voice in the corridors of power. And so tonight, I am pleased to give, on behalf of the Massachusetts Alliance of HUD Tenants, and in fact on behalf of the wider community of people who are fighting for housing tonight, to present to Councillor Yancey this plaque which reads, "The Mass Alliance of HUD Tenants proudly honors Councillor Charles Yancey for his lifelong leadership, courage, and integrity in the struggle for rights, dignity, and empowerment for all, this day, December 12, 2015. Thank you.
Concetta, I met Charles before he was on the city council. We both worked at the State Department of Housing and Community Development. And I remember we had this kind of crazy idea that the state pension funds might be linked to South Africa. Maybe we should do something about that. And so we came up with an idea for a bill, which Mel King introduced. And for 4 years at those hearings, the main state official who came up and testified again and again in support of that bill was Charles Yancey. So he was there in 1978, and Massachusetts, with Mel's leadership, became the first state to divest. And then when Councillor Yancey went to the city council, he made Boston one of the first cities. So Charles has been there his whole life, and he's been there for rent control. He's the biggest champion for rent control in the city council. We're going to miss him on that and a lot of other issues. So Charles, thank you for your service.
Well, you folks know how shy I am about taking the mic. Cleve, thank you so much for all that you do for those of us who find ourselves without a home. Let's give Clive a round of applause for his great work. Cleve has been very, very strong. You know, but for the grace of God, there go I. People who find themselves homeless are still people. They just need a home. So I am honored with this recognition and acknowledgement. I know that there are thousands of people more deserving, but I accept this with a great deal of humility because I know that the struggle continues. I know that there are far too many people in the city of Boston who don't have decent, affordable housing. And I know that Boston is not a poor city. I know that Boston is a city that is opening its arms for multimillionaires, and we cannot turn our backs on those who cannot afford those $2 and $3 million condos that are being constructed as I speak. So there's a lot of work we have to do, but I appreciate the fact that you're taking some time out from your hard struggle, not only to recognize me, but to recognize one of my heroes, Doris Bunting. Doris and I go back a few years, and you don't know how much you add to this honor by including me with Doris tonight. Doris Bunting, I love you, and I thank you for all your work and your leadership long before you became head of the Boston Housing Authority. And it's because of Doris Bunting that I voted for the single-member authority, which I did not want to support, but Doris came and twisted my arm. And because of that, BHA has changed forever. October 20th, 2015 was also Mel King's birthday. Can I wish you a belated happy birthday, Mel King? And I tell you, Mel will always be a fixture in this city and a symbol of the struggle for human rights and justice. So thank you very much, Mel King, and your beautiful wife, Joyce, for all that you do. I will also have to say that we lost a very strong leader just a few weeks ago. Someone who revolutionized the whole concept of tenant management. And of course, I'm referring to Mildred Haley, who through strong determination and inspired leadership, established the first tenant management housing development in the United States of America. We have many leaders amongst us. And it's important to say thank you to people like Mildred Haley and Doris Bunting and Mel King. So thank you so much. So, as I prepare for my very last official City Council meeting. Thank you so much.
You're always official with us.
Okay. Let me say that I will be submitting something this Wednesday, December 16th, 2015, the last meeting of the year and my last meeting of 32 years. And the last item I will be submitting is what I'm going to read right now. City of Boston and City Council official resolution. Be it resolved that the Boston City Council extends its congratulations to the Massachusetts Alliance of HUD Tenants in recognition of your mission for tenant justice and your members' steadfast commitment to uphold the rights of all families to have access to quality, affordable housing. And be it further resolved that the Boston City Council extends its best wishes for continued success and that this resolution be duly signed by the President of the City Council and attested to and copy thereof transmitted by the Clerk of the City of Boston. This will be submitted this Wednesday. And Mike O'Kane, I want you to be there to receive it. Thank you very much. Keep up the fight. The people are worth it. And I will never forget this honor you paid me tonight. God bless you, and Merry Christmas, Happy Kwanzaa, and Happy Hanukkah.
But our next honoree is someone who is, as Charles just said, has played a very special role in the history of our city, and certainly in the history of the tenant movement in our city, and that's Doris Bunting. And Jean Nyan unfortunately had to leave, but the story that they were going to tell you was how they were able to save their 16 row houses in the South End in 1984 when HUD put them up for auction, and we tried to stop the auction, and the BHA stepped up to the plate. And the BHA, under Doris's leadership, managed to win control of those 16 buildings. And if that had not happened, they would not be the resident-owned success story that they are today. So that was one small side story that most people don't know about Doris's leadership to save affordable housing that in the HUD multifamily side, apart from all the public housing things. And Doris, I had the privilege of working for Doris for a while at the State House. And she was a terrific leader at the State House as well. Most people don't recall that she was a state rep for many years. But she was an inspiration to me and an inspiration to many of the tenants that are in this room and to the people at the South End Housing Co-op who got their homes thanks to Doris. So thank you, Doris, for that. I'm going to turn it over to you.
First thing I want to say, is that one of my students at MIT used, as we were talking about how you make things happen. And she said, teamwork makes the dream work. I want everybody to repeat it. Teamwork makes... All right, let's get this team together. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Teamwork makes the dream work. All right. I want you all to understand that, because no matter what you say about me or Doris or Charles, the work that you've done as a team is as significant and more so because none of us in the legislature can talk about the number of homes that you have saved. Right? Now these awards need to go to you all, right? Because it's you that have used your teamwork to keep people in their homes. Now, I want to see if I can get you to stop saying that people are homeless. Right? They may be houseless, which is the brick and mortar. But if you know that the home is where the relationships are, where people do things together to show their love and support, it's not only in the brick and mortar that it happens in all kinds of ways and relationships. And so I was doing some work with students in Cairo and in Mumbai, and the one thing I wanted them to understand was the difference. As they looked at some of the physical conditions of the places where people were living. And then I said to them as we walked around, what do you notice? And then they talked about the relationships and the caring and the way they looked out for the children. I said, that's what the homework is. Right? And so we got them to change their view of housing to one in recognizing, yes, we need to get those structures, but the basic thing that holds us together is our love, caring, and our thing we call home. So I want you to continue to think in terms of what we're doing here as ways of creating homes, right? Okay. And building on the homes that already exist in the relationships between people that begin to make a difference. And when you do that, people begin to understand that what's most important is how we relate to each other, right? No matter what that structure is. And if you get people seeing that, then we have the kind of community, kind of places where people can come together because they know what home work really is about. And so when I was asked if I would give the honor, and I don't know how anybody can just give an honor to Doris, I obviously quickly said yes, because she's someone who expresses what I call the technology of the heart. Right? Now, we have technology of the earth, and we have technology of the heart. But with the technology of the earth, even the Bible said, look, get your act together. What did they say? Beat your swords into plowshares and your spears into pruning hooks. That's the real technology that we are supposed to be dealing with, not that takes life. Anything we do and build that takes life is not high tech, it's low tech, right? And I think you have to understand that. And Doris is an example of one who believes and has pushed people to use their technology and techniques for the development of things, housing that are in the interest of people and the caring. And so you need to just, I want us to understand that. But she is, for me, an epitome, an example of what I call the technology of the heart. Right? And the technology of the heart is what? What's the technology of the heart? Come on. What is it? Love. Say it again. Love. Again. Love. And you know, one of the things they talk about is love thy neighbor. Right? Right? That's what is important. It says it right there. Love thy neighbor. Do unto others as you want them to do to you. And if you want everybody to respect your need for the housing and the love. And so when we do that, we using the technology of the heart. Now, I'm going to read this for Doris. Michael and Charles have said a few things about what she's accomplished. I could go on for days. I don't know if you know that the pivotal person in getting Roxbury Community College built was Doris Bunting. She went up to Speaker McGee, I'm cool, and said, listen, you got a community college out there in Lynn. We ought to have one too in Roxbury. He looked at her. What else could he say? Yes, and it was a done deal. All right? So give her another hand for doing that. We had a good organization, the Legislative Caucus, but the person who, with her techniques, looking people in the eye, was one who could move the speaker and other folks to think and listen very differently than they had before they met Representative Doris Bunting. So I just say those few things. I could talk about the fact of the way she worked around issues of health care. And if you think about anyone who worked harder to get people who were on substance abuse the kind of assistance and support they needed, I defy you to find anybody who was more important and significant in making that happen than Doris Bunting. The other thing I want to say is that the question of community control and getting tenants to be in control of their developments. And the first one was Bromley Heath. And the reason for that, we talk about Bill McConnell, one part, but Doris Bunting was the major mover in making that happen. People don't know about that, but she worked to get the model for tenant-run public housing on the books, and right there at Bromley Heath, you had the ceremony. I want to tell you something. When that happened, or prior to that happened, you could hardly walk up and down some of the hallways or some of the yards, etc. Once those folks got in charge, within 6 months, you could eat off the floor of almost every one of those buildings because the tenants were in control and they made it work in ways. The next thing that happened is that their neighbors around Bromley were having their problems with crime and vandalism. What they did was they looked at what was happening at Bromley Heath, and these folks had organized a good patrol, etc., where they weren't having any of these issues. And guess what? Those neighbors came and said, can you expand your your patrolling so that we can feel safe. So, well, what happened to the Boston Police Department? Anyhow, we're not going to get into that, but the fact of the matter is that she played a serious role in that. So why don't I do this? Ask Doris to come up. The other thing you don't know about her is that she likes to sing. Charles, you stay here. All right. The Mass Alliance of HUD Tenants proudly honors Doris Bunting for a lifetime of dedication and achievement in the fight for tenants' rights, dignity, and empowerment. December 12, 2015. Doris Bunting, congratulations and much love for the love you share and the work that you have done because you care.
Thank you, ma'am. She's overwhelmed. Say a few words.
Thank you very much. I really am honored to receive this recognition. I just want to say something brief, and that is that the days of there being a national requirement for housing to have more than bricks and mortar is over. No one is requesting that these days. So that this organization, the Massachusetts Alliance of HUD Tenants, is more important today than it's ever been. So if you value the house or home that you may have now, I suggest that you bring in your fellow residents and that you pull together. Mel said it very well. It's about the team. And if you can bring the team together and hang in with Michael, you can make things happen that are not going to happen without you. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. I got it done. Oh, I know, I'm giving you. Here you go now.
All right, I want everybody to stand up, and there's a piece of paper that's on your desk, which is titled Earthling Leaders, Doris and Charles. Don't go away.
Okay.
All right? You got it? Oh, we got it? Everybody got it? All right? Okay. Let's read it. All right? Dear Earthling Leaders, Doris and Charles, we look in the mirror, we see it's you who cares, who loves, who shares, who reaches, who teaches about the gifts of creation, of the ear and the art in earth, of the ear and the art in heart. So we listen and cultivate the gifts from Earth's bounty that you work to share. So we listen and cultivate the beauty of all earthlings because we care. Dear earthling leaders, with open arms, embrace the hugs of our earthly love. Thank you.
All righty. Have we come to the conclusion of our program?